In this session, I will talk about the tools to report status and how to interpret the status of the project. The most important tools are the Gantt chart and earned value for reporting the schedule status of the project and the actual cost to report the cost status. We have to look into the parameters that we have to measure. How do we get these parameters? And then we can look at the schedule. What is the interpretation of the Gantt chart and how do we use the earned value? We have to look at the budget and how is our money spending actual cost related to our budget. And the final step is the cost status of the project, where we will compare the planned value with the earned value and the actual cost, because we will use those to try to estimate where our project will end. When we look at the tools for reporting status, the first tool is the Gantt chart. On the Gantt chart, we can see directly how the activities are evolving. How is the schedule evolving? And when we use a specialized software, we can deduct when our project should end. A second element to report status related to schedule is the earned value. Every time we create deliverables, we earn the value of these deliverables. And that value is a measure of schedule status of the project. We can use it to estimate the expected end date of the project. The next element that we have to measure is the actual cost. How much money are we actually spending to create those deliverables? And we have to compare the actual cost with the earned value, and their relative position will tell us how we are spending our money to create the deliverables. The schedule and cost position of the project relates to the relative position of the earned value to the planned value and the actual cost to the earned value. Those relative positions give us an idea about the progress of the project. We will talk about that later when we are looking deeper into these different examples. What are we measuring? During the execution of the project, we are measuring the deliverables that have been created. We measure the progress of the activities and how the work actually has been done. This refers, first of all, to the deliverables. How many deliverables did we create? In the little table on the bottom, we see earned value and the numbers in green. Every period, I earned 3.57K on deliverables that were completed. We also see that it took us 7 periods instead of 5 periods to create that activity, to create the deliverables. Finally, the earned value for these deliverables is equal to the planned value for that activity or for these deliverables. The other element is, in fact, how much did we pay to create those deliverables? The cost is deducted from the financial reports from the project, and in this case, every period that the person or people were working on creating the deliverables, it represented a cost of 5K. Since the activity took 7 periods, the people were working 7 periods on creating the deliverables, which gives us a cost of 7 times 5, which is 35K. So in this case, based on our first estimate, we thought the deliverables would be created in 5 periods at a cost of 5K per period, which gives us a total of 25. We worked 7 periods to create the deliverables, and for simplification, I spread those 25 evenly over these 7 periods, and we had to pay the people for 7 periods, So we had to pay 35K to create those deliverables. So for this case, we have a planned value of 25. We have an earned value also of 25 at the moment that the activity was completed, and the actual cost is 35K. So this is an important element because we can never make more or earn more value than the original estimate of the activity. When we look at these elements in a Gantt chart and calculate the earned value, we find here on the left-hand side the two activities A and B with their planned times and their actual times. The planned times are given in red. We look from period 1 to period 7, and we see that activity A started later in period 3, and it took one period longer than estimated or planned at the beginning. But the total value, the total earned value of activity A is still 15K. The same for activity B. We plan to start at period 4 and finish at period 7. But we see that we only started at period 6. We are now at period 7, so we only completed period 6 and 7. Activity B is not completed yet. And we will have to see that our activity B is expected to be completed at period 10. When we look at the planned value, we can see the planned value for our activities. So we have 5K per period. This is the time-phased budget. And we find the cumulative budget going from 5 to 35. And for periods 8, 9, and 10, since we plan to finish all the work, the amount, the planned value, remains constant. The earned value, however, is different. We only look at how much work we did, how many deliverables we created, and we see a different evolution of the earned value in this case. So we see that we start with 0 because we didn't do anything in period 1, and then it continues. Now we can use this information to create a map, a chart, in which we can represent the planned value and the earned value. So this is the overview of the previous exercise. We see the planned value or the S-curve in blue, and below we find the earned value curve. So we see that we are working slower. We have to look at the different deliverables that have been created, and we see that where we expected to finish the project at period 7, that we have a schedule variance, a difference between the planned value and the earned value, which is clearly an indication that we are behind schedule. When we look at the status of the budget, we look at the budget allocation and the actual cost. The budget curve shows us how much money we have left to complete the project, and the budget curve are the horizontal blue lines. These are the budget increments that the company has provided us to work on the project. As long as we are not spending more than the allocated budget, the project can continue. At period 10, we see the different positions relative to the planned value, to the S-curve. We have one position below, one position on the planned value curve, and one position above, but all three are below the budget. It means that we can keep on working on the project. It doesn't tell us anything about the progress of the project. It just tells us we still have budget left. The red dot is clearly above the budget that has been approved for that period, and it also means that there is no more money left to continue the project, and we will have to wait till we get more budget. What the reason is for this overspending can be determined only when we look at the next slide where we talk about earned value and actual cost. Now we can have a deeper look into the cost status of the project, and we look at the Gantt chart including the earned value and the actual cost. We added the bottom two lines to the previous table, and here we find the actual cost. The first line of the actual cost is the time-phased cost that we are incurring when we are working on the activities. With that information, we can calculate the cumulative cost. And now we find three graphs. We have the graph of the cumulative planned value, the cumulative earned value, and the cumulative actual cost. And we can compare those in the next slide in the graph. Here we see the graph representing those three parameters. The blue graph is still the S-curve or the planned value over time. The red curve is the overview of the earned value. We are clearly behind schedule. And the green curve is the actual cost. Although it is below the blue curve, it does not say anything about the cost efficiency of the project. We have to compare it with the earned value, and we see clearly that we are spending more money than planned to create the deliverables. This means that we are over budget. We can conclude that our project is not in a very good state, that we will probably finish the project late and over budget. In this square, you can see an overview of the different parameters, and we can deduct the schedule and the cost position of the project. When we look at the center vertical column, we see that the earned value is equal to the planned value for all three of them. This means that the project is on schedule. The right column, earned value larger than planned value, tells us that the project is evolving faster than we planned, so we are ahead of schedule. And at the left column, we see that the earned value is smaller than the planned value, so we are behind schedule. That's why we have the orange color and at the bottom the red, because some parameter is not as it should be. Horizontally, we can find similar information but related to the actual cost. We see that in the middle row, the actual cost is equal to the earned value, so we are creating deliverables as we planned. We are not overspending. The top row, we are spending less than we planned, but the bottom row is in fact not so good because there the actual cost is larger than the earned value, so we're overspending. In the two right squares, we see that the schedule position is not so bad, but we are overspending. But the red square is clearly a very bad situation because we are behind schedule and we are overspending. A very simple overview of the different cost positions. So whenever you know earned value, planned value, and actual cost, you can use this square to determine the cost and the schedule position of your project. We did some calculations. We go a little bit further in understanding earned value management. You did a great job, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.